Mike asked, I've only tried cooking fish a couple of times. I did salmon to pasteurization once since I'm feeding a young kid, and it dried out. It dried it out a whole lot. What are your favorite approaches to fish, and what types of fish hold up best to sous vide? A lot of people are disappointed cooking fish with sous vide, and I think that's because there's several types of fish, but two of the main ones are more poached like fish, and there's more like grilled or pan fried fish. And so I always picture back in Boy Scouts when they would cook rainbow trout. They'd catch them, clean them, and then they'd throw them on the grill, and it'd be nice crusty skin on one side and a few little grill marks on the top, and that's all that would go into it. It was amazing and really flavorful. To try to replicate that with sous vide is almost impossible. You're talking about something that's, half inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch thick, and only needs to be grilled for 2 minutes per side to start with to bring that temperature up. So trying to replicate the type of fish that's seared and has a crusty outside and a more rawish inside, or is just thin enough that it cooks all the way through by the time you get the sear, it's really hard to do with sous vide. But there's a lot of poached fish, and you can make a lot of flavorful poaching liquids that you can cook fish in. You can poach them in butter, you can steam them, all these different methods of these lower temperature cooking that works really good with fish. And I think sous vide makes that type of fish really, really good. I have a few recipes on the blog talking about cooking them low temperature and then serving it as part of a dish. And I think that's a way that, sous vide is really good for fish if you're trying to do that preparation. If you want the more pan fried or grilled fish, then cooking it sous vide isn't the best way to go. So that's kind of my thoughts on what I prefer. But cooking to pasteurization for fish is something that normally isn't done. The only time that I've really heard of it being done consistently is when I went to Korea/Cuisine Solutions, and they showed me some of the neat products they do. They're a company two companies that are combined, basically, that they have two main branches. The one is they do consulting for how to use sous vide in professional restaurants. So Thomas Keller brought his entire team in, and they helped Thomas Keller develop what type of sous vide that they should be using and how they should approach sous vide in his restaurants. So they work with 1, 2, and 3-star Michelin restaurants. And on the other hand, they make all the oatmeal for Panera, and they make all the sous vide egg bites from Starbucks. So they kind of do these mass consumer sous vide methods, and they also do these really high-end consulting. And so one of the products they do is pasteurized salmon, and they cook it at 140 until it's pasteurized. They chill it, and then they provide it to restaurants only to be used in cold applications. They don't think, as Mike said, that it gets dried out. And so serving it in hot applications, it doesn't work, but for using salmon in a salad or tuna in a salad, they were cooked to pasteurization for those because they will last a really long time. But they're not going to give you a salmon fillet that's been pasteurized. So what I do with fish is I only eat fish that I would feel comfortable eating raw. And it's interesting when you talk about the temperatures in sous vide versus in traditional cooking, because people think like, well, I wouldn't eat raw fish, from the supermarket, but almost every time they are searing or pan frying or grilling a fish, they're not bringing it up to a high enough temperature. So they are eating it basically raw from a safety standpoint. But when you talk about sous vide and you're like, oh, well, it's only at 120, it's more in people's heads. And that's where they think sous vide might be more dangerous, where the traditional methods they're using are just as unsafe as sous vide. You're not pasteurizing the fish when you're pan frying it unless you're really cooking the crap out of it. And most of us that like good food wouldn't enjoy that fish anyway. So only eat fish that you'd feel comfortable eating raw, and cook that sous vide. And if you really need it pasteurized, you can do salmon or some types of tuna and eat it cold or know that it's going to be overcooked. But otherwise, there's no real good way to pasteurize fish without it breaking down the structure of the fish itself, because it's so tender and delicate. You're only cooking it for 40 to 60 minutes, probably at a maximum. So if you're going 2 or 3 or 4 hours, which is what pasteurization needs, you're going to break it down. It's going to be mushy and not good anyway. So you need it pasteurized. Don't look for some other type of food, I think.